Hey folks, well, apparently the Texas Municipal Police Association, the TMPA, is at it again. Last year they started a war with me, and I fought back, and I hadn't heard from them in a long time because I assumed they had been thoroughly embarrassed enough. Apparently not. Found out yesterday the TMPA is still heavily infatuated with me. What do I mean by that? Well, it's the Capitol. I was talking to some people. And apparently what the TMPA is going around doing is trying to get laws passed to prevent you and me from being able to carry a firearm on a license that is not from Texas. So if you're a Texan and you've got a license to carry a handgun or a concealed handgun license from another state, and you're a resident here, they want a law. The Texas Municipal Police Association wants a law making that a crime. What business is it of theirs? What business is it of the Texas Municipal Police Association that if I qualify for a license in one state, what's the problem with qualifying for a license here in Texas? And I'll say why there's some logic to this and why the Texas Municipal Police Association is filled with a bunch of thugs, liars, thieves, dishonorable muskrats. Because what's the difference between me carrying on a license from another state and a person from that other state carrying on their license here in Texas? What's the difference? If they have a problem with a Texan carrying a license from a certain state, shouldn't they have a problem with anyone carrying that license in this state? The truth is they don't like me. The truth is that the TMPA recognizes that not only am I a rational human being who makes rational arguments about police reform and holding law enforcement accountable, but they can't stand that. They can't stand the First Amendment, and they don't support the Second Amendment for sure. And so what they're trying to do now is undermine your rights through me, or using me as an example. So here's what happened. A legislator was talking, not a legislator, a representative from TMPA was making some comments at a recent event, and apparently was talking about me. This was overheard, asking about me and realizing that, do you know why CJ is pushing for constitutional carry? Well, CJ is pushing for unlicensed constitutional carry because he can't get a Texas license. So he went to another state and he carries with another state license because he can't qualify for a Texas license. Folks, I've been very clear about this. First of all, if I wanted a Texas license, I would go get a Texas license today. And I could, and I would pass, and they would not be able to deny me because I'm not a prohibited person and I'm not disqualified from getting a Texas license to carry. However, I refuse and will refuse to get a Texas license as long as this state taxes my right and converts it into a privilege through the form of a license. The day that we get constitutional carry passed, I will go and get my license, not because I have to, but because I want to. And the reason I'm going to want to is because of convenience. At this point, it's convenience. If I want to go buy a gun and I have a Texas license, it's a lot quicker and easier for me to do that. If I want to get into the Capitol, they swipe my card. It's much easier for me to get in there. As it is right now on my out-of-state license, when I go to the Capitol, I have to wait until they call it in to the state where I have my license. And once they confirm that it's still active and that it's still valid, then they allow me into the Capitol with my firearm. And when I go to the counter and I buy a gun, if I buy a gun from an FFL, then I wait and have to go through the background check. And sometimes that's taken about 2 or 3 days. In the last few years, it's taken about 2 to 3 days sometimes. But if I had a license, I'd be able to do that. I'd be able to just go there, buy my gun, fill out the 4473, and be done with it. However, TMPA doesn't like that. Now, this feud started last year. And I'm sure a lot of y'all, I didn't have this channel, at least not doing this last year when this happened. So I want to play a story from last year that is pretty indicative of what my problem is with the TMPA, because they tell a lot of lies. And I want to expose these lies kind of bit by bit. And I'm gonna pause this video several times throughout this video. So it's a 2-minute video. Once we get through it, that'll be the end of this one. But I want to kind of show you the dishonest, absolutely pathetic nature of what the Texas Municipal Police Association. Let me tell you something. The TMPA believes that I'm anti-cop. Even assuming that I am anti-cop, which anybody that knows me and all the police officers that I know personally, even assuming if they all thought that I was anti-cop, this video will prove to you exactly why I would be anti-cop. It actually proves why more people should be anti-cop. Because when you've got the Texas Municipal Police Association that represents over 50,000 Texas police officers coming on and saying the kinds of things that you're about to see and hear, is it any wonder why people hate them to some degree? So here, I'm going to bring this up here, and I want to play it. I'm going to talk through it. I'm going to pause it and bring you some facts that are extremely important, because the statements that they're talking about, they're true. I said the things that I said, but because of the lack of honor, the lack of integrity, the lack of spine, the lack of courage of the Texas Municipal Police Association, they take them completely out of context, and they don't tell the very people that they were there for exactly why I said these statements. What they were there to do is to encourage the public and lie to the public, blatant falsehoods, lie to the public about who I am as a person so that they would not vote for me. Why? Because the TMPA knows if CJ Grisham ever got elected, and look, I don't plan to run for office. I don't plan to run for office. I'm not saying I never will. If CJ Grisham were to become a representative, oh crap, we might have to be accountable for our actions. There might actually be some real police reform. We might not actually be able to investigate ourselves and clear ourselves of wrongdoing. We might actually have to answer to someone. That's what the TMPA is afraid of. So let me go to this video here and show you exactly what it is that I'm talking. Whoops, wrong one there. There we go.
Candidate for the Texas State House met face-to-face with some of the people today who don't really want him to win.
The candidate is war veteran and Republican C.J. Grisham, and those who oppose him are members of the Texas Municipal Police Association. Fox 44's Michelle Trotter joins us live now from the newsroom. Now, Michelle, why don't these officers want Grisham as a lawmaker?
They described Grisham as anti-cop, or someone who is against law enforcement, and they want the public to know this before heading to the polls.
He's pushing for a world without law enforcement at all.
All right, let's stop right there. First of all, check out this poster. Check out that poster in the background. Now, we're going to see a little bit more of this in the video. Notice how they take conservative Republican and they draw a nice long black line through that, and they put cop hater, cop hater. What has C.J. Grisham said about Texas police officers? Now, I'm going to go through these a little bit later. This right here is Kevin Williams. I'm sorry, Kevin Lawrence. Kevin Lawrence. Trying to remember what his name was. Kevin Lawrence is the president of the Texas Municipal Police Association. Kevin Lawrence is a dumbass. Did I say that? Am I allowed to say that about cops? Or does that make me anti-cop because this guy's a dumbass? So we're going to talk about all these little things here that Kevin has said. Now, what you can read right now are statements, and I will say all of these things are absolutely true. These are things that I have said about Texas police officers. You better doggone believe it. I'm not going to lie and say I never said those things. He's going to lie and say and take out the context.
Kevin Lawrence is the executive director for the Texas Municipal Police Association.
Just taking a position of the cops are the bad guys, and that's just not the case.
He said I'd taken the position that cops are the bad guys, and that's just not the case. You know, let me ask you a question. What makes you a good guy, Mr. Lawrence? Are you a good guy because you extort money from people? I have not ever taken a position that the police as a whole are the bad guys. However, there sure are a lot of bad guys that are police.
He says Grisham has a history of making hateful public comments about law enforcement officers.
I'm done feeling bad when cops get shot.
All right. So notice how quick. Now the camera's going to pan on this really quickly. Let's talk about this. And this post is still up, I believe. It should still be up. I don't delete stuff. I'm done feeling bad when cops get shot. Sorry, I don't condone shooting anyone except in self-defense. But when the state is able to kill with impunity, it only follows that the public will say enough is enough and begin fighting back. What is this? This is the Fernando Castile shooting, where Fernando Castile, who was lawfully in possession of a firearm, was shot and killed by a cowardly cop because he was reaching for his wallet the way that the police officer told him to. Why would I feel bad when a guy like that, who is murdering people because he believes that everyone with a gun is a threat, why would I feel bad that those people are getting shot? Does Lawrence here feel bad when law-abiding citizens are murdered by Houston police officers on a faulty warrant based on lies? I don't recall Lawrence coming out with a statement, or the Texas Municipal Police Association coming out with a statement attacking those police or saying that he feels bad that those individuals were murdered, shot, and killed down there in Houston. Was it Tippett's? I think was their name, or Tuffet, or whatever. It only follows that the public will say enough. Look at the story that I'm talking about here. The story that I'm talking about is that a police officer got away with the shooting of a lawfully armed person who had a license. And if you have a license, folks, let me give you some numbers here. A police officer is 23 times less likely to commit a crime than the general public. 23 times less likely to commit a crime than the general public. A license holder, for a handgun, a license to carry a handgun holder is 10 times less likely to commit a crime than a cop. So who's the bigger danger there, the cop or the license holder? And yet when a license holder like Fernando Castile is approached by a police officer, he's looked at the guy as the threat, not the cop. Even though the cop is 10 times more likely and did shoot you than he is to shoot a cop. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the context. This was my frustration. It's very difficult to feel bad when a cop gets shot, when cops are out there shooting unarmed people, 12-year-old kids, license holders, pointing guns at them and threatening to kill them. You see the context here that this officer didn't talk about at all? I'm sorry, this TMPA guy?
There's other comments he's made where he says, he basically hopes that other officers get shot. He promotes violence against law enforcement officers.
Okay, so he says, I hope that other officers get shot. Look at this graphic here, right here, that they're using during this. Dallas police thuggery. These cops need to be charged with official oppression, felony kidnapping, and aggravated assault. Quincy Blakely was arrested and his wife also assaulted because he stood up for his rights and probably because he was a legally armed black man. This is yet another example of police abuse. And do you think Lawrence cares about that? He said, I hope that officers get shot and I promote violence against police officers. Let's go back to this, their own post that they used here just a little while ago. I don't condone shooting anyone except in self-defense. I don't hope anyone gets killed. I don't want cops killed. I don't want citizens killed. I don't want cops shot. I don't want citizens shot. The only time I believe in violence is in defense of violence. This guy's out there saying that I hope that more cops get killed. That is absolutely false. Now, I'm going to come back to that in a second as well, because he's going to go through and list some of these.
There will be bloody cops, calls them cowards, thugs. They're bad for public safety. They're bad for morale in our law enforcement ranks, and they're bad for the relationships between our citizens and the officers who serve those citizens.
All right, there we go. Now I'm going to back this up so y'all can see it. I want you to see these statements, because we're going to go through each of these. All right, we've already talked about the I'm done feeling bad when cops get shot. But look at this other quote on here. The second one says, what makes a cop's life so important? Do you know what that came from? There was a bill last session that was passed into law that makes targeting a cop a hate crime. targeting a police officer a hate crime. I have said this from day one. What makes a cop's life so important? What makes my life so important? What makes your life so important? As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's do something. What is that? June 29th, 2017? Let's look at something here real quick. Let's see if I can go back to June of 2017. What day was that again? That was June 29th. June 29th, 2017. Okay. I can't find... I did a little bit of searching. I can't find exactly where it says where I made that comment. I'm not going to doubt that I made that comment. Okay, it could have been on a completely different post. It could have been a comment that they lifted off of a someone else's post. I have no idea. But what I did find is I found something from April 17th, which is around that same time period. And this is when we were debating House Bill 1919, which would make it a crime, a hate crime, to target a police officer. And so the sentiment here in this post I'm showing you is identical to what they're saying, although the words aren't exactly the same. And so I wanted to show you, this is where I'm coming from here. And it says, I'm waiting to testify, making a police officer a hate crime.
Chair calls CJ Grisham, who did hang out with us all day.
I'm persistent.
And maybe into the next day. No.
I still have a 2-hour drive home.
Oh, well, be safe. Go ahead and state who you're here representing and your position on the bill. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. It's very late. Hopefully you're getting overtime. I don't know. Is that double time? My name is CJ Grisham. I'm here on behalf of myself to oppose HB 1919. And my thinking on this is very clear. It's not that I hate cops, but what we're doing here is we are creating a special class of citizen for another government employee. When you read the bill, what really stands out to me is we talk about hate crimes, race, color, disability, religion, national origin, ancestry, age, gender, sexual preference. People choose to be cops. And nobody that becomes a police officer thinks that it's a safe job. But I can't choose my skin color. I can't choose, well, I can choose my religion. I can't choose my nationality. I can't choose, depending on who you talk to, my sexual orientation. But I can choose whether or not I want to become a cop. And that's on me. When I became a soldier and I knew I was going to Afghanistan and I was going to Iraq, that was a choice that I made, that I was going to put myself in danger. It doesn't mean that I'm a better person than anyone else. So what I would ask the members here is to think about something. If we pass this bill and we create a special category of person just because of their profession, what you're saying is that if someone kills you, your life is less important and valuable than the life of a police officer. If you were killed, ask yourself, would you want your killer to be treated more leniently than someone just because they chose to become a police officer? And what we're doing is we're taking and we're saying government, because law enforcement is a government entity, government is much more that we serve them, they don't serve us. They're the masters, they're the ones that should be treated better, instead of government is working for the people. And so I oppose this on that basis because what we're doing is, again, we are creating a special class of citizen, a protected class, based solely on an occupation. Solely on an occupation. And I would hope that anyone that is a law enforcement officer would also see this and oppose it, just thinking that, do I really think I'm better than the people I'm out there serving and protecting? Do I really think that my life is more valuable than the life of the people that I see on the streets? And is your life less valuable than those people? I know if I were killed, I would want that killer held accountable just as much as anybody else. And everyone's killer should be treated judiciously, harshly, but equally. And I close.
And look right here. I oppose making any government employee more important than the average citizen. Using violence against anyone is a hate crime, and no American's life should be more or less important or worthy of protection than another, especially a government official. Now, I said some more things down here further because people were asking some questions about this. And so right here, I don't understand why anyone would believe that their lives are less important than a cop's. And this is what I told the committee when I testified on this bill. And you can find on this channel, you can find my House Bill 1919 testimony. And I said that as well. But I said, I don't understand why anyone would believe that their lives are less important than a cop's. If you were murdered, are you saying that you would want your killer treated more lenient than a cop's killer? If so, why? I went on later. So people who knew they were applying for a job that was dangerous are better, more valuable lives than mine or yours? They're government officials, plain and simple. Their job is to protect us, not the other way around. If they feel they're better than us, they shouldn't be in that job. Killing a cop is already a capital offense. Now, we want to do what? Kill them again for a hate crime? Again, I ask you, is your life less important than a person's life that chooses a particular profession? So, further down here, there's a question by Jeff Steele here. I'm not going to change your mind, and you certainly aren't going to change mine. I obviously have a different view of how the machine does and needs to work. This, despite what it appears, at least to me, an apparent undercurrent of blanket disdain you have for all government officials in general. I understand you've had bad encounters with Leo in particular, and I actually agree that you've been treated poorly. So, look, that has nothing to do... Yes, I have a disdain for government officials in general. Everyone, if you believe in freedom and liberty, should disdain government. Okay? Government is not to be loved. It's to be tolerated. And it's only to be tolerated to the extent that it's required to protect your liberty. No one should be in love with government officials. When I was a soldier, you should not have been in love with me. You should have had disdain for the military because the military could be used against you. I'm not saying you don't respect them. I don't have disdain for anyone. I have suspicion of all government officials. I don't give automatic deference to people just because they are government. But look at my response to Jeff. I'm simply asking you if your life is less important than that of a government official. Is it? Is it? My contempt is based on government officials thinking they should be a protected class. Oh, and by the way, I did say here, and for the record, law enforcement doesn't do anything for me except write reports after I've been the victim of a crime or issue traffic citations. Think about it. When have I needed law enforcement except after a crime has been committed or I have been the target of one of their statutes that they're enforcing? I don't. My contempt is based on government officials thinking they should be a protected class. So the intent and the idea is there of what the officer here is talking about in this film. Where what makes a cop's life so important. So I couldn't find this June 29th post, but again, I'm not denying that. But let me put it in context, and that's what I did. If you notice, that was in April. There was a June 21st post that I found that was along the similar vein, and but I didn't find that comment underneath that post either. But I wanted to let you know there will be bloody cops. So yes. I said that. I said there will be bloody cops. Now, what am I talking about? When we talk about there will be bloody cops, I'm talking about this right here. This is the post that that Lawrence is talking about right here. There will be bloody cops. Let me see if I can advance. You can see the. There you go. June 19th, right there. There will be bloody cops. Actually, it was June 29th. I don't know what he's talking about. So he obviously got his dates wrong there. That's probably why I couldn't find that other post, because he got his date wrong. Thugs and cowards. I swear, if I ever saw this happen, I'm getting arrested or murdered, too. But there will be bloody cops. Look what he did not say. Look at the quote that he left off. I will defend victims of excessive force. This video right here, I don't know if it's still active. Let me see. Oh, look at that. The video is unavailable. Oh, okay. Well, some of you might remember that Lampasas had, as a matter of fact, this officer, I believe, was charged. I don't remember if he was convicted or not. I got to go look. But he pulled over a student or some young guys, and was trying to order him out of the car, and all they were asking him was what he had done. And so he finally gets him out of the car, and of course the guy didn't want to get out of the car because he's like, look, tell me what the hell I did first. He finally gets him out of the car. They go to the back. The guy turns to talk to the officer, doesn't raise his arms or anything, turns to talk to the officer and makes some statement. The officer slams him on the ground and begins hitting on him. I mean, they just begin pummeling this guy. He's punching him in the face. It's obvious abuse of authority. If I saw that happen, look, I don't care if it's a cop. I don't care who it is. If I see someone being beat down, and their lives are in danger, I'm going to get involved. I don't care if you got a badge on or not. So why doesn't Mr. Lawrence explain right here, I will defend victims of excessive force? Guess what? It wasn't just me that thought it was excessive force. It was the prosecutor. It was the system itself that believed it was excessive force. They lied on their police report. So what? As a citizen, am I not allowed to defend my fellow citizen from abuse of authority? I mean, if that's truly your belief, then we have no business being a country. We should still be a protectorate of the British government. Because that's exactly what our forefathers did, was they finally stopped and started defending against excessive force, and they put a stop to it. That's what I'm saying. I don't care if you're a cop or if you're just some street thug. If I see you beating the crap out of someone who is less capable of defending themselves, i.e. unarmed, for no reason, and it's excessive force, you better believe I'm going to get involved. And yeah, there's going to be bloody cops. But I also said right here, I'm probably getting arrested and murdered too. But I'm not going to stand by and let a tyrant be a complete thug. There's your context right there. The next one here. Cowards. Okay. He says June 17th, but I'm saying that in this video right now. So there are police out there that are cowards. If you believe that you have to disarm somebody just to talk to them, you're a coward. If you believe that everyone with a gun is a threat to your life, you're a coward. If you believe that your job wearing that uniform is to make it home to your family at night, not to make sure that everyone else is able to make it home to their family at night, you're a coward. If you have to shoot a 12-year-old kid because you're not sure that the gun that he's got in his hand is a toy or not, you're a coward. Okay? Yes, there are a lot of cowards out there. I can't deny that because I've said that. I've said it many times, not just on June 1st, 2017. Thuggery, June 1st, 2017. I've said that a lot. Yes, there's a lot of thuggery in law enforcement. Absolutely. Cowards and thugs. By the way, Mr. Lawrence here, he's a thug. They have thin skins and think they are better than you. All right, here's that post. June 17th, 2017. And this is when Governor Abbott signed this very bill, HB 1919, into law. This is where Governor Abbott agreed that your life is less important than a police officer's life. I said as much. Your life isn't as important as a cop's life. Demigods must be bowed to, worshipped, and treated as royalty. They have thin skins and think they are better than you. Do you know who brought this bill forward? This is a TMPA bill. House Bill 1919 was brought to the legislature and begged for by cops and their little protectors in these associations and unions. That's who brought this by. Cops believe they are better than you, that they should have special treatment. They want to be able to have rights that you don't have. They want to be able to carry places you... There's a bill right now in the legislature that makes it a crime for you to have a gun and be intoxicated. And it defines the word intoxicated. But guess what? It exempts cops. Why? Are drunk cops able to carry a firearm in some manner different than you and me? Are they somehow better than us that they can manage a firearm while they're drunk? No one should be carrying a firearm while they're drunk. Not a cop, not a citizen, nobody. But they believe that they should be bowed to, worshipped, and treated as royalty. This is it right here. This is the quote they're using. They have thin skins and think they are better than you. Who am I talking about? Demigods. Who are the demigods? Those people pushing this bill. Isn't it amazing? I mean, this is thin skin. I mean, if you want to see thin skin, look, this is it right here. I'm so thin-skinned because, CJ called me a coward. CJ called me a thug. CJ says I have a thin skin and think that I'm better than him. So I'm going to put it on a big sign. I'm going to call him a cop hater. Yeah, that's going to show them I don't have thick skin.
They're bad for public safety. They're bad for morale in our law enforcement ranks, and they're bad for the relationships between our citizens and the officers who serve those citizens.
You know what's bad for the morale between the citizens and the officers who serve those citizens? What's bad for morale is not having any type of accountability. What's bad is when police are able to beat the living schmack out of you and not have to face the consequences. That's what's bad for morale between the citizens and law enforcement. What's bad for morale is when a law enforcement officer comes up to you with an attitude and just starts yelling at you and demanding identification. What's bad for morale between the citizenry and the people and the police are when you lie on a police report and you lie on an affidavit and you lie to get a warrant, and then you take that warrant and you execute 2 people and get 5 cops shot. That's what's bad for the relationship between police and the people. But, Kevin can't recognize that. No, what's bad is, but CJ says such bad things. He says bad things about me, and that's just wrong. That's what he believes.
We called CJ Grissom to get his side. He says he knew nothing about this group's feelings toward him, and when he came to confront them today, says they threw him out.
Cop is that I wore this badge for 15 years. I've worked with law enforcement for 21 years. I will take a bullet for law enforcement. I've stood side by side with them against communists and violent extremists.
Now, what I'm talking about there is Antifa. I have stood side by side law enforcement, and when Antifa got froggy in Austin, one of the police officers was knocked off of his bike during an Antifa rally. Guess who the first person was that went there and helped that cop get up and keep people off of him? This guy right here. That badge I wore, I was a counterintelligence special agent in the Army. I had arrest authority. I had arrest authority. Or I just said that. I had arrest authority. I had investigative authority. I worked with law enforcement on the Joint Terrorism Task Force at every level of government, from local to federal. My focus was on national security crimes, treason, sedition, sabotage, espionage, terrorism, things like that. That's what I focused on. But I've been working. I was an explorer when I was in high school. I went to the Westside Skills Center in Jacksonville, Florida, and finished a criminal justice program there. I've revered cops my entire life, and I respect good cops to the utmost. And any cop that knows me, they might not agree with me, but if you get an honest cop that I have talked to that has actually had the balls, unlike Kevin Lawrence here, to talk to me face to face. You know what's interesting? I'm very bombastic on YouTube. I'm very bombastic on Facebook. I make a big show about the way I talk about some of these people. But you know what is different about me? If you got me face to face and you had the balls and the intestinal fortitude to actually talk to me like a person and come up to me, I'd actually treat you. I don't talk this way when I talk to you face to face. And then if you treat me with respect, I don't even talk about you online the same way after I've talked to you in person. So that's the difference here. The difference is Lawrence here is such a coward that he won't come and talk to me. He had to go to the media with a big giant display and talk about how dangerous CJ Grisham is to cops.
Lawrence says that is not the case.
And I think you'll find, if you look through a lot of his literature, you'll find that he's talking about cops in general very often.
Right. I do talk about cops in general very often. Why is that? Why am I talking about cops in general so often? How about maybe because the fact that I come from a profession of law enforcement, although at a federal level, again, I'm not going to, I've never claimed that I was a street cop. I've never done petty crimes, misdemeanor stuff. Everything I do is felonious, is what I did. And it was very narrowly limited. Makes me want to track this cop down and see what kind of man he or she is without a gun. A cop walks free, and a 4-year-old loses her daddy because a coward with a badge and a gun thinks everyone is out to kill him, so he's going to kill us first so he can go on to protect his life. This is why cops are being killed. This is why people like me have lost confidence. Why do I talk so much about police? You know, if Lawrence would have come to me and actually talked to me now or before, because he probably could have come and said, see, here, you know what? Check this out. I spoke to Art Acevedo. I was talking to Art Acevedo a couple weeks ago on the phone. He and I talk a lot. And as much as I agree or disagree with him, as much as I disagree with him politically, I respect him as a person and as a law enforcement officer. I'm not going to go into this video. You know, I'm not sucking up to him at all. He's still a communist in my mind. But I treat him with respect, and we had a conversation. And one of the things he asked me, he says, CJ, do you think that are the people who are fighting for constitutional carry and unlicensed carry, is it because they can't get a Texas license? Initially, you would think that that's the question of Art Acevedo because you know, he wants to change whether or not we can carry without a license or, you know, an out-of-state license. But here's why I have respect for Art Acevedo. He even believes that the way our license system is set up is wrong. The way that you can't get a license if you're behind on taxes, if you can't get a license because you haven't paid your child support, or you can't get a license because you were convicted of some petty, non-violent Class B misdemeanor. He actually agrees with those things. And so I explained to him, no, the reason that people like me don't have a license, and I explained to him, I says, Art, I can get a license any day I want. I can get a Texas license. I qualify for one. I mean, I'm almost tempted to go and get a Texas license just to prove these people wrong, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sacrifice my principles just to prove a point to a police officer. You know what? Law enforcement, you have access to databases. You have access to the law. You can go look at my criminal history, and you can go look at the requirements to get a license to carry, and you will see that I can get a license to carry if I wanted to. I don't. And so I explained to Art Acevedo, he's the Houston police chief. I said, no, people just don't want to pay for what is a right. And I said, many people like me, I kid you not, if constitutional carry, HB 357, goes into effect, and it'll probably go into effect, I don't know, November 1st, whatever day it goes into effect, maybe January 1st, like they did with open carry. They'll probably delay it until January 1st. I will, on January 1st, schedule a license to carry class, and I will go and get my license, because now I don't have to. I don't want the government telling me I have to. But yet, did Lawrence ever, before he went to the media, before he went to the people that he went and talked to, these public officials, wherever he was, did he bother to reach out to CJ and go, I wonder why CJ supports House Bill 357? No, it's because he probably can't afford, he can't get a license. That's what it is. He doesn't qualify for a license, because that's what Lawrence is telling people. I don't know if it's Lawrence, I'm sorry. Someone from the TMPA. I'm just assuming it's Lawrence or whoever their lobbyist is, okay? So I'm not saying that Lawrence said that. All right, let's get back to this video here.
He is now running as a Republican for the State House District 55, seat held by Hugh Shine.
But one of the things that I want to do is I want to pass a law that will protect law enforcement who turn in or expose bad cops so that they can be protected.
Wait a minute, I'm confused. I'm confused here. If I'm so anti-cop, why would I come out with a bill that protects whistleblowers? Good cops who blow the whistle on bad cops. Do you know how many cops I have spoken to? And if you're in the Liberty movement and you've got friends who are police officers, you've probably heard the same thing. That I have spoken to who have told me that, you know, CJ, keep up the fight. We can't be vocal about this because if we come out and talk about, you know, if we report bad cops, we run the risk of not getting backup when we need it because they retaliate, or we might get reassigned, or some other thing we get set up. This is a real fear in law enforcement. The good cops are afraid of bad cops. And they're afraid of not even the bad cops, but the majority of cops who aren't bad cops, but believe that a cop should support a cop no matter what, which makes you a bad cop. So why, Mr. Lawrence, do I talk about cops all the time? Because I want reform and I want change. And change doesn't mean giving you more protections that other people don't have. It doesn't mean making you a protected class of citizen where if I target you as opposed to anyone else, suddenly that's a bigger crime. That's why I talk about cops, because cops get away with crap. I talk about cops because I've been arrested 3 times and haven't committed a crime once before that arrest happened. I talk about cops a lot because I have seen and witnessed, first with these eyes right here, not just what I see on YouTube, not just what I see in the media, not just what I see online, not just what other people show me. I've seen with my own eyes how police officers lie to protect themselves when they make a mistake at the expense of me and other people that are watching this video. That's why I'm so rabid, because I've been a victim of you, Mr. Lawrence. I've been a victim of what you have been trying to do, which is protect bad cops. And I don't want anyone else to be a victim. That's why I do what I do. That's why I talk about cops as much as I talk about cops. This is a great quote here that they use. I thought this was kind of funny that this was used, because is this a bad thing? I mean, think about this. Is this statement here really a bad thing? This is something I said, I don't know when this was. There's no date on this. It looks like it was a comment that I made on a Facebook page. Because we aren't slaves to cops. I bet you they said, why don't you just comply? I bet you that my answer, because this is an answer I would give if someone asked me the question, why don't you just comply? Why do you have to be such a prick? Why don't you just do what you're told? Because we aren't slaves to cops. It's quite the opposite. Americans aren't required to and shouldn't obey orders that they aren't legally required to obey. I mean, do police really believe that we should obey orders that we're not required to obey? What does that sound like? Tyranny. It sounds like a dictatorship. It sounds like I'm a servant. Here's a better question. Why do cops make unlawful, unconstitutional, or senseless demands just because they are too much of a coward to handle people on equal terms? I use very forceful language. There's a reason I use very forceful language, because I want people to pay attention to what I have to say. And I want people to get pissed off. Now, some people are going to get pissed off at me, but some people are going to get pissed off because they have their eyes opened.
Lawrence says just because Grissom doesn't like how our system is, he wants to blame the cops.
The vast majority of our law enforcement officers, the men and women out there, are good, decent, honest, hardworking people trying to do the right thing.
All right, and that's pretty much it. It closes up here. That's the video. So I just wanted to bring that up because yesterday I found out that TMPA is still going around talking about me, and I want to expose the corruption and the cowardice of the TMPA. Let me tell you, it's been a year. I went, when they held that, what you see in that video, right? What you see in that video is the TMPA holding a press conference about the danger. I mean, look, we can go back to this. We can absolutely, let me go back to this real quick. Oh, I just closed it. Never mind. But go back and look at it. I went to this hotel where they held this briefing. I went there. I even dressed nice so that I would be, I even wore my badge so they would see, look, I'm not the enemy here. And I went in there and I just waited. And when I saw them show up, I went and I was like, hey, I want to let you guys know I'm here. If you've got any questions about the things that I've said, I would love to talk to you about them. You know what I was told? We don't have anything to say to you. We don't care what you have to say. I mean, literally, we don't have anything to say to you. We don't care what you have to say. Your comments speak for themselves. Apparently they don't. Only the comments that they put on their little board that they think speaks for themselves. In other words, we will speak for you. That's really what Lawrence was saying. So I went to the TMPA meeting in order to allow them the opportunity, or at least allow myself the opportunity, to explain why I feel the way I do. But the TMPA, the Texas Municipal Police Association, is more interested in fragmenting those of us that believe in liberty. Their goal is to minimize who I am as a person that believes in freedom, because I am a threat to their power and their control and their desire for more power and more control. And if they don't ostracize me, and if they don't seek to minimize what I am and demonize me, and if they don't demonize other freedom people, then the people will start to listen to them. And so they try to dehumanize us. They try to dehumanize us and turn the people against us. You know, it's like, don't look at the man behind the curtain. That's what they're trying to do. Look at my right hand so you don't see my left hand doing all these bad things. That's why they came after me. That's why they continue to come after me. So let me tell you something, Mr. Lawrence, or whoever else is running the Texas Municipal Police Association. I am always available to come and talk like a man. And I promise you that just like look, I'm not a big fan of Pancho Narvaez. But you know what Pancho Narvaez does? Even though I've used some really harsh language against Pancho Narvaez, he comes and talks to me like a man. We sat down in a room, just he and I. And you know what? I even had my gun on my side. He didn't care because he's not a coward. That's why. Art Acevedo, I have been extremely vocal against Art Acevedo. I call him a communist often. We have a weird relationship. I say what I think about what I think, where I think Art Acevedo stands. I do respect him. I have a lot of respect for Art Acevedo, and I know that a lot of people might be pissed off at me for saying that. The fact is that Art Acevedo, knowing where I stand, has the balls to keep a relationship with me. DPS Region 7 knows where I stood on what was going on for several years. And you know what? Thanks to, I'm not going to give his name or her name because there's several of them there at DPS Region 7. You may have noticed that over years I've kind of softened my opinions on Region 7 DPS. You know why? Because instead of me talking about them and them talking about me and me trying to go to them to get change and not getting anything done, me going to them for change has resulted in them being open to listening to me. And now we talk, and we've been talking. And I respect Region 7. And I will respect them until, and you can ask this officer, because when I went to a rally and I had my bullhorn and they pulled their crap, even though I always treat them with the same respect they give me, when they tried to tell me I couldn't use my bullhorn, I went off. You can respect someone and not bow down to them. And so any officer that actually comes and talks to me like a man, unlike Lawrence, because Lawrence isn't a man. He's a beta male. He's a beta male hiding behind his badge and the power of all his police and the politicians and the fact that he's got the public spotlight, and that if he wants to go and create a billboard and take stuff out of context, that people are not going to ask any questions. They're not going to, well, I see that you say that, so you're quoting CJ there where he says cowards. Why, where was he saying that? Why did he say that? Because the media is not going to do that. They didn't ask him, well, I see that you quoted him saying that, what was it? Why is a police officer's life more important than anyone else's? Or what makes it so important? They didn't ask, well, why was he asking that? What's the context of that quote? Lawrence knows that. Lawrence knows they're not going to ask those questions. That's why he's going to craft his narrative the way that looks best for him. All right, guys, take care. God bless. The Texas Municipal Police Association is a communist organization here in the United States of America that is working to undermine your rights, that is working to turn this country, the state, not this country, but yes, by default, this country, to turn this state into a police state, to make it to where you and I are second-class citizens to the first-class citizens and the elitists who wear a badge. That's what the Texas Municipal Police Association does. And maybe I need to start looking into their finances. Maybe I need to start really cracking open that egg that is the Texas Municipal Police Association. And then maybe they won't have as much power. But you know what? If the TMPA has some balls and courage, if they're not cowards, if they're not thugs, reach out to me. My phone number is quite plain out there. You can get it from anyone. Heck, ask Region 7 DPS. Ask Art Acevedo. Ask Chief McManus. Ask almost any police chief in the area, in the state. They've probably got my cell phone number because I've given it to them. Or you can just send me an email, cj@cjgrisham.com, and say, hey, I'm the coward from the Texas Police Association, Texas Municipal Police Association. I I realize I have no spine and my balls were cut off a long time ago, but I'd like to, sit down and meet with you and maybe show you that, I've got a little bit of balls. I am kind of a man, and I'm not really that much of a coward. For some reason, I don't see that phone call coming. But if it does come, I'll let you know, and I'll start changing my tune.